Greetings. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada. Jai, all the Vaishnav Acharyas. Jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Jai Narada Muni, Jai the Six Goswamis. Jai. Jai all the present day followers and participants, one way or another, in the grand Hare Krishna movement. Hare Krishna, like one devotee told me a while ago, he said, the holy name has been let loose on the planet. The holy name has been let loose on the planet. Oh, Krishna. Well, we're going to read a little bit about Krishna, the personality of Godhead, from the 10th Canto Summary Study by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose unique contribution to the planet cannot be measured, and the impact of his service as empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be with us for a very, very long time, for many, many generations. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He will certainly be in the continuing narration of Srimad Bhagavatam. Evidently, Srila Vyasadeva he's still writing Bhagavatam. So this is Bhagavatam. To be in Srila Vyasadeva's Bhagavatam for sure. The activities and the devotional service of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, coming in line of disciplic succession of very wonderful acharyas. Hare Krishna, Krishna. And he's available in his books. And we go from there. We read his books, and we hear his voice in the books. There's knowledge in the books. There's the voice of pure devotion in the books. He said, I'm in my books. And then we depend on Krishna to make the arrangements for who, in the present moment, can act as a spiritual guide for us. And Krishna makes the arrangements for when what's in the books agrees with the spiritual master present before us, we know, and it resonates within the heart, we know where we're going to make some progress. in love with Godhead. So Krishna makes the arrangements. Hare Krishna, and it's a little bit different for everyone. It's a very personal thing, relationship with a spiritual master. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, the different types of spiritual masters. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Ultimately, there's one spiritual master, and that's Krishna. So he sends help to help those that are developing a desire to actually surrender Krishna for material attachments. Yeah, I was thinking about that. There's a song, or it's an old saying. I don't know if it might be a song too. Is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Probably most everybody's heard that. It's been around a while. Better to have loved. I wonder where it came from. Maybe like Shakespeare or something. Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So we look at it in the world around us. There's a lesson there in attachment. A strong lesson for not becoming attached materially. Because becoming attached in a relationship or to something like great wealth or fame or bodily beauty or reputation or even knowledge, to become attached or to another person, loved another person on the temporary plane, you're going to lose, because everything here it has a temporary nature to it. So at some point, you're attached to someone, you're going to experience loving and losing the object of love. So that's one way to learn about the dangers of material attachment. Some people, when they experience that, they conclude, and when they approach the scriptures, they conclude that to become completely unattached to anything, and that the highest experience is nothing. Nothingness. Then you're free from pain, you're free from having to suffer. Better to have loved and lost. You don't have to feel that ripping apart that it can drive people crazy. Sometimes they commit horrible crimes when, say, they're attached to a man or a woman and they run away with someone else. They go crazy and they'll kill, because it's like having your soul torn out of your body. Well, this old song, I think it was Bob Dylan. I gave her my love, but I gave her my heart, but she wanted my soul. See, fixed in Krishna, then these experiences, they take on a different quality. They're free to experience, having your attachment torn away, but fixed in Krishna. And you get realizations that really it's Krishna. And Krishna has that reputation of loving him and leaving him. The residents of Vrindavan, they're absorbed in that mood of having loved and lost the object of their love. But it's different with Krishna. It's not, you don't lose, because you still have Krishna. It's just a mood of relationship with Krishna. It's very intense. Like in the Gita, the verse, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you. So I was looking at that, undivided. What is that? It's like a pie. You divide it into sections and serve it out to people. What is this undivided devotional service? What are they talking about? So I find this a lot with words. I think I know what they mean, but my understanding of the word is very limited. So I went to the dictionary, and undivided actually means focus, complete focus on one object. Total focus without distraction. Attention. So undivided means no distractions. Complete focus on one item, like laser focus. So only that kind of focus on Krishna, then Krishna says, I can be understood as I am standing before you. In devotion. Now Kamsa, he was a king around the time Krishna appeared on the planet 5,000 years ago, who also had undivided focus, but it wasn't devotional. Like all he could think about was Krishna, but it wasn't in devotion. It was, I want to kill Krishna, I want to kill Krishna, I hate Krishna, I'm afraid of Krishna. And he was having nightmares. That's all he could think about. And he arranged a whole situation so that he could lure Krishna closer, and then maybe Krishna would get trampled by this very aggressive elephant that guarded the city gates. But that didn't work, and maybe he could lure Krishna closer into, he arranged for a wrestling match with huge, powerful wrestlers, and they would crush Krishna. So he was always thinking of Krishna and always making arrangements to try to capture Krishna, but not in love, in hate and anger, fear, and lust, because he wanted to be, greed, he wanted to be the ruler. He saw Krishna as a competition. Because he was the king of Mathura, the district of Mathura. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. These things, they're accounted for in the historical, transcendental, historical narrations of the Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Hare is 5,000 years ago. It happened. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Better to have loved than lost, than never to have loved at all. Oh, the pain of it. I mean, it's painful. It is painful, but it sharpens the focus on the object of love, even more than being with them. It focuses that. So, in a sense, that's Prabhupada's topmost lesson, is that he got everyone attached to him out of doing all kinds of service. The more you serve someone, the more you develop love for them. This is how it works when you look up in India, the marriages tend to be arranged. It's the tradition for thousands of years. Families discuss which boy and which girl would be a good match. They consult astrologers. It's a whole science for arranging marriages. And so the boy and the girl, they practice. She goes to the boy's house. She cooks nice preparations. These are children. They're, even before marriageable age, she practices serving. Even before puberty, she practices serving this nice boy and cooking things and bringing them to his house and like this. And then by serving, becomes attached. And then more and more service, and she develops love for the boy, and he develops love for her. So love and attachment. I experienced that with my father. He became disabled toward the end of his life. He was pretty helpless, actually. He couldn't manage any of his affairs. He was in his 90s. And I had the opportunity to see to his care. And I always, my father, I just think the world of him. He was really a wonderful person. And I got to do some kind of direct service for him. I had to do it in such a way that he didn't think it was me. So it was hard for him to accept service from his daughter. He's always the father, I'm always the daughter. And he's always ready to correct me. It's wonderful, I loved it. But so I had to kind of like tiptoe around, and so it looked like it wasn't me doing it. But it was. I mean, it wasn't, but it was. It was Krishna. But this was the drama that unfolded in seeing to the care of my father. And I developed more and more love for him. It was by serving. By serving. By serving. So, we get a little teary here. Because he's gone. But Bilba Mangal Thakur, he expressed that when he was a very old man sitting in Vrindavan, and he was blind. And he was a very old man, he was blind, and he was a great saint. He was totally absorbed in his bhajan and thinking of personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna came to him as a little cowherd boy, brought him some milk. And when he experienced taking the prasadam from the Lord, he was blind, he couldn't see, then he understood, this is actually Krishna bringing me this prasadam. This is Krishna. And he tried to reach out to grab him, and Krishna ran away. And so he had Krishna, and then Krishna was gone. So a famous exclamation, something like, you may be able to escape my grasp, but you'll never, never escape my heart. You can never get away because I have you in my heart. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So learning this, how to understand attachment and we can use our experiences in the material world to understand higher principles if we have knowledge of what's going on. So this attachment, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So Prabhupada is teaching that. And I see a lot of his disciples are actually quite crazy in this ecstasy of loving their spiritual master and not having him physically present before them. They're actually quite crazy in love of Godhead and attachment to the spiritual master. And it's actually Prabhupada's last lesson, how to experience this separation. So, you may not be present before me in your physical form, but you'll never get out of my heart. You'll always be in my heart. Oh boy, what I'm seeing is Krishna and his representatives, they never actually appear alone. So if Krishna is in the heart, then everybody's in there. And the spiritual master is in the heart, then all of the disciples are in there too. It's Hare Krishna. What was it? There's that famous painting of Jesus where he's knocking on the door. You know, he's knocking on he says, let me in. Let me in. Hare Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Yo, Lance, Haribo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was just having a little fun here with looking at attachment. And the old saying, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So it can experience that separation. And in Krishna consciousness, it takes on a whole new dimension. Materially, it can be, people go crazy, they kill other people, they do all kinds of things. they lost their money, they jump out of buildings from the 50th story. Their reputation is spoiled, they kill themselves. I mean, separation from what you're attached to. But in the material world, it's inevitable. Lose a child, it's inevitable because it's a material world. But we can understand that feeling, that like, it's like having your heart torn out of you. You can understand that feeling. And in Krishna consciousness, we get a new perspective on that. That helps us, because somebody who's experiencing that, they're single-minded, they can't think of anything else. They're totally focused because of the intense experience of separation. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. That's the way to focus completely on Krishna. You can have that experience of loving and having that taken away. And the spiritual master teaches that. It's the topmost lesson. So I was seeing a lot of Prabhupada's disciples are actually quite crazy in this mood of separation. They're focused. I mean, it's a kind of wonderful madness. It's crazy. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. There's something else I was looking at. There's a meeting on Thursday night. It's online on the Zoom thing. And it's a very sane, logical, reasonable, rational group that, because they're situated without, going cuckoo house with emotions, they can look at different, they can look at anything and try to get perspective on it in terms of Krishna. It's not that they're not emotional, but they're very self-controlled. It's a very Brahminical atmosphere, Sudasattva atmosphere actually. And it's very nice, because then we can look at things. So the last time, most part stay kind of quiet. I popped a really hot potato at everybody, because here I'm seeing there are many devotees, not a lot, but enough, who are very confused about the issue of they poisoned Srila Prabhupada. There was a plot, it was a conspiracy, and they put poison in his food and his milk, and they killed him so they could take over the movement. And there are many devotees who they believe that. And no, I wasn't there. So I asked this group that question, could we have some reasonable discussion on this? Because I see it's very divisive. And there are devotees who won't talk to anybody, they won't go to the temple. They're convinced that there was a murder, and they want justice. So Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So there was some discussion. And also, one of the members of this group posted a link to a video that goes into a great deal about this. With Lance says, it's funny, because I was going to ask you about that. Lance, are you surprised at any of this anymore? Are you surprised at the synchronicity? I'm not surprised, I'm just continually amazed. Yeah, it was an hour-long probe into different aspects of this, and then the video. I'll post a link to the video. And in that group, there was one devotee who was actually present at the time. And so he was able to give his personal, he was there when Prabhupada was leaving. He was there. And he gave what he experienced in the association of the devotees who were trying to care for Prabhupada. And what he says is he saw nothing but loving exchange. He didn't see any animosity, he didn't see any subversive. He saw that Prabhupada was relating with the devotees in a very intense emotional way, and it was very intense for his servants, very intense. The word he used was Prabhupada was churning everyone's loving emotions. He was really churning the situation to bring out the most loving feelings and in his disciples who were there. And in the video, his nurse, Abhiram, explains a little bit about Prabhupada's physical health, what his health was like and why, and then they go over the poison issue in it. So I'll post that video. But in that Zoom session, the devotee that was there said he didn't see how anyone would benefit from poisoning Prabhupada. He didn't see how anyone would benefit at all, because Prabhupada was leaving. He was leaving his body. He became ill, and his nurse explains his physical conditions, diabetes, kidney failure. He had all these things, and it was like way before. I mean, he suffered from those things for a long time. It was way before. And so he was leaving his body. And no one would benefit from him leaving, from killing him. He wouldn't benefit. He was leaving anyway. And even to have him go, there would be no benefit, because those that were serving him directly were already in very powerful positions because they were serving him directly. Because Prabhupada acknowledged them as to render him this very type of significant service, they were already very powerful. How would their power be increased if he left? It wouldn't be. As long as he was there, they were getting more and more powerful in the movement. More and more powerful. More and more authoritative. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So that was one point that was brought out, and then there were others. But the devotee said he didn't see anything like that. And then the so-called forensic evidence, I always wondered about it. That's really debunked in the video. If you take a look at it, you'll see the so-called evidence is really, it's really far-fetched. Really far-fetched. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So personally, even without hearing the discussion, I was really kind of like, but I wasn't there, so I didn't know. So the best I could do with it, without information, without the videos, without the Zoom discussion, was not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So if there was a crime or there wasn't a crime, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So that doesn't change anything for me in hearing from Prabhupada through his books, and from going by my personal encounters with devotees. My encounters with devotees, it's not political. It's what kind of person are they? How do they relate to me? Am I feeling the shelter of Krishna in the association of this person. When they speak, what is their vibration? How can I, as the Christians say, discern the spirit? That's what I go by. So nothing's changed for me, except that now I have some substantial proof from, especially this video, of the forensic research, as well as hearing from someone who was there. So the best I can do with it is its taste. And for some devotees, they have a taste for going there, and they get angry, and they want to get even, and they get like enlivened by, they did that, and they get enlivened by that, and then they focus on Prabhupada. Like you say, there's some madness going around. That's one form of it. But it's like one devotee apologized to me because a few years ago, they really acted crazy with me. Oh my God. They wanted to punch me. This is another woman. I was chanting Hare Krishna, came out, punched me in the stomach. What's going on here? What is this crazy person? And then swearing and telling me everything they thought was wrong with me. And I'm like, okay, Hare Krishna, time out. So a couple of years later, I saw them again, and they came up, like for a Vaishnav, when they're humble, it's like you have a straw in your mouth, a blade of grass in your mouth. It makes you have a sheepish grin. You got a straw in your mouth, you got a sheepish grin. They approached me and they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so crazy. I was so crazy." So I had to laugh. I said, "Yeah, crazy for Krishna." And we had a good laugh. So, yeah, there's some craziness going around. And Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You'll see, if you watch that video, I think it'll clear a lot up. To try and prove there was a plot, they took things out of context. A lot of the tapes were hidden for a long time. The recordings were made in the final days, and they kind of picked certain things out of context. And the forensic analysis was really pathetic. It was pathetic. Oh man, it was pathetic. And then they reached a conclusion, and then they changed it. They did some more forensic analysis, and they did another conclusion, which was even more pathetic. So they're just attached to this mood of thinking of Prabhupada and wanting to protect him from these demons that were surrounding him. But it's not. It wasn't. It's all. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Yeah, I'll post the video. So Lance says, "I'm not surprised because you are always answering my questions and thoughts before I ask." Woo! Krishna! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Oh, I know where these are coming from. You're using your telepathic powers to put them in my head. It's your fault. You're doing it. Yeah, I'll post the video. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's a little controversial, so I might get a few attacks here and there. I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should just send it to you, private message, which I think I'll do because I'm not really ready to, fight off the... I'm not really ready for that just yet. I think I'll just I'll send it to you private message. And if anybody is watching this, which not many do, I'll send it to you if you ask me to. It's really kind of a relief that not too many people watch my videos, because then I'm free to talk, without being attacked. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. I'm not ready to be attacked yet. I have to defend myself all the time. Hare Krishna, Krishna, not yet. Hare Krishna, maybe never. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. There's another question I want to pop on this Thursday night level-headed, sane group. So they're going to meet again on Thursday night, and it's a little strange question. It's about one of Krishna's queens, and I don't know what kind of discussion they're going to be able to have, but I have my own understanding of it, but I want to see what they do with it. It's about Jambavati. Now, she was the daughter of Jambavan, the gorilla king. So he was a king. He was the king of the forest, not the lion. Jambavan, that was his kingdom, the forest, and he was a king. And he had a daughter, so she was a princess. But their species is gorilla. So it's just like there are different kingdoms in the human population, and some are more civilized than others. So the gorilla, he was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra, but he was a gorilla king of the gorillas. And he gave Krishna his daughter, his princess, Jambavati. And he accepted her and took her back to Dwarka. Now, with the other queens, like Rukmini was there, and he kidnapped her as a queen, and she was very beautiful, and her bodily features were described. Green eyes, beautiful teeth, her clothes were described, her earrings, her jewelry. There was a certain amount of description of her features. And Satyabhama, also the daughter of Satrājit, who was also a king, beautiful princess. And some of her bodily features were described. She was very beautiful. But in talking about Jambavati, there's no description of her bodily features. The only thing that's mentioned, at least in Krishna book, is she was of marriageable age. So I want to ask the group about that and how to understand it. We want to understand, spiritually, these things. Did she have was her body covered with beautiful reddish-brown hair, and her nose was kind of flat and blackish? And, what did she look like? And are we able to accommodate this? And how do we accommodate it? How do we understand it? I really have never seen much discussion on this point. But I have my own understanding, and I'm okay with it. So if I say that, then, and I ask this question and I say I have my own understanding on this, but I want to hear discussion, they'll say first, well, what's your understanding? I want to know what my understanding is. And I'll be on the spot. But I would like to hear some discussion, because I don't think it's just a silly, snoopy question. I think it hits on something very significant spiritually, in understanding the personality of Godhead and the transcendental nature of the Lord. I think it touches on a very significant point. So we'll see. I might do a little Google searching and see if there's anything available about Jambavati. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna. All right. Okay. Lance is commenting here. He says, oh, geez, the print is so small. Let me see what it says here. Okay. My instinct, my intuition has always told me Prabhupada passed naturally. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I think you'll appreciate the video. Okay, I guess we have a little time here to read a little bit Krishna Bhakti. Summary study of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is chapter 56, the killing of Satrājit, and Śatadhanvā. Satrājit and Śatadhanvā. So, Satrājit, he got materially attached to a jewel that was given to him by the sun god, Vivaswara. And it gave him all opulences, gold, it gave protection for the health of his kingdom, no pestilence or famines, no disease. And he got really attached to it. But Krishna said, look, let Ugrasena have this jewel. Give it to Ugrasena, because he's the king of the whole district. He was like the king of the kings, Ugrasena. And everyone will benefit, not just your group. Then we'll all benefit if you give it to Ugrasena. Satrājit said, no, I want to keep the jewel. And then there was a whole drama that played out, and eventually he surrendered and gave the jewel to Krishna. That's what we read about, the drama of what happened. So, but eventually he surrendered, and he gave the jewel to Krishna to give to Ugrasena. But Krishna said, no, you know what? Just keep the jewel and worship it. I think that's what happened. He never even took the jewel after all of that. Yeah. So Lord Krishna, being pleased with Satrājit, because he actually offered the jewel, and his daughter Satyabhama, informed him he did not have any need of the Jamantaka jewel. It is better, let it remain in the temple as you have kept it, he said. And every one of us will derive benefit from the jewel, because Krishna blessed it. Okay? When he was keeping it for himself, he was benefiting. But when he desired to offer it to Krishna, he didn't actually have to give it to Krishna. Just the thought and the surrender of concluding to give it to Krishna was enough. Krishna accepted that. It's like when we offer like food to Krishna. He's not interested so much in the cauliflower and the peanuts and the chapatis, they should be nicely prepared. But he says, if you offer me with love, I will accept. What's he accepting? The love. So with Satrājit here, finally his heart changed, and he surrendered to Krishna, and he said, okay, please, you take the jewel, and take my daughter too. He surrendered with love. So Krishna said, you know what? I don't have any need of the jewel. You keep it. He took his daughter. You keep it, and we'll all benefit if you worship it. So when we offer food to Krishna, it doesn't disappear. It's still there. And you eat the remnants of the offering. So something like that. The jewel became prasadam. The Shamataka jewel became prasadam because he decided to surrender it to Krishna. It became prasadam. And Krishna accepted it. And then he let him have it at the same time. So then it was Krishna's mercy. The jewel became Krishna's mercy. And every one of us will benefit from the jewel. Now, you offer something to Krishna, it's like watering the roots of a tree. All the leaves and branches and the twigs and the flowers and the fruits and everything, they get the benefit of the water. But if you just put the water on a leaf or a twig or something, It's very limited. The rest of the body doesn't get the benefit. Doesn't put it on the root. So that's what happened. Now, the killing of Satrājit and Śatadhanvā. So there was evidently still a problem. And we'll see what plays out here. After Akrura visited Hastinapur and reported the condition of the Pandavas to Krishna, there were further developments. Yeah, Krishna asked Akrura, his uncle, to visit Hastinapur and see what was going on with the Pandavas. Because Kunti Devi and her sons, the Pandavas, were to inherit the kingdom, but in the royal family, their cousins were trying to get rid of them so they could get the kingdom. So he wanted to know what was going on there. The Pandavas were transferred to a house which was made of shellac and was later set ablaze. And everyone understood that the Pandavas, along with their mother Kunti, had been killed. Yeah, there's a whole story about that. They weren't. They escaped, but everyone thought they were. This information was also sent to Lord Krishna and Balaram. After consulting together, they decided to go to Hastinapur to show sympathy to their relatives. Krishna and Balaram certainly knew the Pandavas could not have been killed in the devastating fire, but in spite of this knowledge, they wanted to go to Hastinapur to take part in the bereavement. Boo-hoo. Yeah. The cousins weren't. They're putting on a show of bereavement, and Krishna knew that they hadn't been killed, so he was putting on a show of bereavement. On arriving in Hastinapur, Krishna and Balaram first went to see Bhismadev, because he was the chief of the Kuru dynasty. Now, Bhismadev would have actually been bereaved if he fully accepted that they had been killed, because he loved the Pandavas. He just was stuck by the tradition on the wrong side. He had side of the Kurus, but he loved Pandavas and he loved Krishna. So he actually would have been very, very, very unhappy. Then they saw Vidura, Gandhari, and Drona. And they also would have been totally absorbed in misery, thinking that the Pandavas had been destroyed. But by tradition and by social structure, they were stuck on the other side. Gandhari was married to Dhritarashtra, who was the father of the evil cousins, and he was attached to his son. So she was stuck. She was actually a great devotee, but she was stuck. She was married to Dhritarashtra. And Vidura was Dhritarashtra's brother. He was stuck. And Drona, I can't remember too much about Drona, but he was an acharya, spiritual teacher of the military arts. I believe he was Arjuna's teacher, who taught him archery. So Arjuna was one of the Pandavas and his very dear student and disciple. So he would have been very upset. But other members of the Kuru dynasty were not sorry, because they wanted the Pandavas and their mother to be killed. But some family members headed by Bhishma were actually very sorry for the incident, and Krishna and Balaram expressed equal sorrow without disclosing the actual situation. So much drama going on. People are experiencing so many, a full range of emotional experiences in relationship to Krishna and Krishna's devotees. When Krishna and Balaram were away from the city of Dwarka, I mean, what do people do when they want entertainment? They want to have some fun. They go to the movies, and they laugh, and they cry, and they become fearful, but they're okay. Why? Because it's just a movie. It's not real. It's just a movie, and it's fun to experience so many things safely, sitting in a seat in the audience. And the actors are having fun. They're fully absorbed in their role and their parts. But they know it's not real also. However, in the material world, everyone thinks it's real. And they're not having a good time, even though they're experiencing so many things like loving and losing, anger and hate. They're experiencing so many things and they think it's real. So they're unhappy, miserable. Krishna, like in a dream, it's like you're asleep. You might forget that it's a dream, and you're having very fearful or very angry, or all these things are happening, and you forget it's a dream, and then you wake up. Oh, it was a dream. Wow, Krishna wasn't real. That I was experiencing things is real. The emotions, those things are real. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The impersonalists, they want to get rid of everything. They want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's all unreal. Even the emotions are unreal. And then what do? Nothing. I'm having such a good time doing nothing. Another way to understand it is you're in a building, and there are a lot of rooms in the building, maybe a hotel, and there's a party going on in one room, and it's a really nasty party. They're breaking beer bottles, hitting each other over the head. Somebody's got a bloody nose. Somebody took a chair and smashed the window. You want out of that party. You want to get out of that party. So you find the door and you get out. You're in the hallway. What are you going to do? Stay in the hallway forever? There's another door, and there's another party going on down the hall. And it's such a nice party. They're a little intoxicated, but it's fun. They're having a good time. No one is hurting anyone. They're singing and dancing, and they're just having a great old time. Appreciating each other. Having a wonderful time. So the material world is like that, terrible, terrible party. Smashing the windows, breaking the beer bottles. Bloody noses. That. But the other party's nice. Hare Krishna. So that's the spiritual party. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So these are all spiritual pastimes because they're in relationship to Krishna. And there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of excitement, with all kinds of things going on. And it's fun. Hare Krishna, and we get to see what goes on in the spiritual world. In preparation for entering the spiritual world, joining the party. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay. When Krishna and Balaram were actually away from the city of Dwarka, there was a conspiracy to take away the Shamantaka jewel from Satrājit. The chief conspirator was Śatadhanvā. Along with others, Śatadhanvā wanted to marry Satyabhama, the beautiful daughter of Satrājit. Satrājit had promised that he would give his beautiful daughter in charity to various candidates, but later on the decision was changed, and Satyabhama was given to Krishna, along with the Shamantaka jewel. Satrājit had no desire to give the jewel away along with his daughter, and Krishna, knowing his mentality, accepted his daughter but returned the jewel. Okay, so when Satrājit made his offering of the jewel to Krishna, it wasn't really a heartfelt offering. It's explained that he had developed a very bad reputation in the city for how he dealt with this situation. And he lost his good reputation, and it was very painful for him. You know, people looked at him with scorn, how he had dealt with the Shamantaka jewel situation. So he made a show of giving it to Krishna along with his daughter. Okay, so it wasn't, Krishna understood his heart that it wasn't really out of love for Krishna that he gave the jewel. It was because he was uncomfortable in his situation. It was uncomfortable. And he realized if he gave the jewel to Krishna, then the pressure would be off. But it wasn't really out of love for Krishna. And he did the same with his daughter. He gave his daughter to Krishna to get him off the hook. Make a show of devotion. It wasn't actually devotion. He made a show. So Krishna didn't accept it. He didn't accept the jewel. He took the daughter. He took her. That's Krishna for you. But he didn't take he didn't accept the offering of the jewel. That was why. After getting back the jewel from Krishna, he was satisfied and kept it with him always. But in the absence of Krishna and Balaram in Dwarka, there was a conspiracy by many men, including even Akrura and Kritavarna, who were devotees of Lord Krishna, to take the jewel from Satrājit. Akrura and Kritavarma joined the conspiracy because they wanted the jewel for Krishna. They knew that Krishna wanted the jewel and that Satrājit had not delivered it properly. Others joined the conspiracy because they were disappointed in not having the hand of Satyabhama. Some of them incited Śatadhanvā to kill Satrājit and take away the jewel. Satrājit had a lot of enemies. The question is generally raised, why did a great devotee like Akrura join this conspiracy? And why did Kritavarma, although a devotee of the Lord, join the conspiracy also? The answer is given by great authorities like Jiva Goswami and others that although Akrura was a great devotee, he was cursed by the inhabitants of Vrindavan because he was taking Krishna away from their midst. Akrura went to Vrindavan to take Krishna and Balaram away, and they never went back. So he was cursed by the residents of Vrindavan. Because of wounding his feelings, because of wounding their feelings, Akrura was forced to join the conspiracy declared by sinful men. So he wounded their feelings. Which to me indicates that he wasn't sensitive to their loving relationship with Krishna. Now, Uddhava, when he went to Vrindavan, he was sensitive. And he appreciated the mood of loving exchange with Krishna there. It was awesome. But Akrura evidently didn't actually become enlivened or appreciate the wonderful atmosphere in Vrindavan with Krishna. And he acted out of a sense of duty. He was a messenger sent by the demon Kamsa to take Krishna and Balaram out of Vrindavan. And he was thinking how fortunate he was that he would be able to see Krishna. But he wasn't thinking of the devotees at all. It was just he was going to see Krishna. Because Krishna is seen as a Vishnu form. The Vishnu aspect of Krishna in Mathura and Dwarka is more of a Vishnu, Lakshmi Narayan Vishnu form. So he was all excited he was going to see a Vishnu form, when she did see, when they bathed in the river Yamuna while they were traveling, Krishna revealed to him his Vishnu form. He did see Krishna in his Vishnu form, but evidently he had no sensitivity for Govinda, Krishna playing the flute, and the wonderful pastimes of Vrindavan. So he kind of like a brutish thing went in and took Krishna and Balaram out of Vrindavan. He was acting on duty to Kamsa, and so he wounded them. He wounded their feelings. So because of that, Akrura was forced to join a conspiracy declared by sinful men. Similarly, Kritavarma was a devotee. Because of his intimate association with Kamsa, he was also contaminated by sinful reaction, and he joined the conspiracy, which is interesting because their idea is they're doing it for Krishna. Krishna wants the jewel, so they're conspiring to get the jewel for Krishna. So they're about to engage in some nasty activity for Krishna. Krishna is something for everyone in Krishna consciousness. Being inspired by all the members of the conspiracy, Śatadhanvā one night entered the house of Satrājit and killed him while he was sleeping. Oh, how fantastic. Oh, God, this is like a B-rated crime movie. Oh, this is like so low. Śatadhanvā was a sinful man of abominable character, and although to his sinful activities he was not to live for many days, and due to his sinful activities he was not to live for many days, he decided to kill Satrājit while Satrājit was sleeping at home. When he entered the house to kill Satrājit, all the women there began to cry very loudly, but in spite of their great protests, Śatadhanvā mercilessly butchered Satrājit without hesitation, exactly as a butcher kills an animal in the slaughterhouse. So he cut his throat while he was sleeping, and all the women in the house were aware of what was going on, and they were screaming and crying. And he slit his throat, because that's how they kill an animal in the slaughterhouse. Since Krishna was absent from home, his wife Satyabhama was also present on the night Satrājit was murdered, and she began to cry. My dear father, how mercilessly you have been killed. So Krishna was away, and Satyabhama had gone to her father's house while he was away. The dead body of Satrājit was not immediately removed for cremation because Satyabhama wanted to go to Krishna in Hastinapur. Therefore the body was preserved in a tank of oil so that Krishna could come back and see the dead body of Satrājit and take real action against Śatadhanvā. Satyabhama immediately started for Hastinapur to inform Krishna about the ghastly death of her father. So she put the dead body in a tank of oil. I wonder what kind of oil. It wasn't petroleum, it was some kind of oil. What kind of oil? Cooking oil? Another question for my Thursday night group. What kind of oil? Hare Krishna. Ah, Krishna. Woo! Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Govinda. Thank you, Prabhu. Well, you're doing some really nice posting and enlivening everyone. Your posts on Facebook, really, really sweet. And authoritative. Hare Krishna.